Hello, I'm going to be talking about different questions you can ask during the Meet the Family time for an au pair job. So before you meet the family, you have to find them. So I used aupairworld.com, and I said this in another video, but I maybe talked to about 4 or 5 families before I decided to set up a call to talk to one family. So as I was looking through the site, I knew that I wanted to, first, one important thing is the location. So for me, I already live in Spain. So I knew that I wanted to go to the north of Spain because I was going to be doing this in the summer, and I previously lived in the south of Spain and it is really hot there in the summer. So I decided I was going to look for a family in the north of Spain to au pair for. Another thing that is good to look for is the age of the kids. So for me, that really didn't matter. I was open to really any age, and I ended up going with a family that had a 5-month-old and a 2-year-old. So it depends. If you're someone that doesn't want to work with babies, then obviously you would look for families that do not have babies. But that's an important factor. Another thing about the location, I guess it's important to look to see if it's a big city, if you're going to be in a smaller little town where there's not really much to do. So I decided to look for families that were in a bigger city because I knew I wanted to have that experience living in a bigger city. Okay, so once I found some families and I had talked to some of them, the most important part I think is the time period. So it will say all of these things on the profile usually. So I just wanted to be there for 2 months in the summer. So I only looked for families that needed an au pair for June and July because those were the 2 months that I was free. So that obviously limits the pool of families. So once I found a few families that fit all of those things that I was looking for, I talked to, like I said before, 4 or 5 families. And I actually called one of them, and I forget why it didn't work, but I think the schedule was the reason why it didn't work. So now I'll get into the different questions that you can ask during the interview. So I guess, first of all, it's just important to, when you first talk to them, to introduce yourself, maybe tell them, how excited you are to meet them, and to try to just get, a feel for how the family is at first, and, And then I guess later on, after the conversation moves forward a little bit, after you've told them a little bit about yourself, after they've told you a little bit about yourself or about themselves, then either maybe they'll have a lot of questions to ask you, or you can ask them some questions. So the questions that I asked were just confirming about the time period that they needed an au pair. Another question that I asked, because the reason that I wanted to be an au pair mainly was to improve my Spanish. So a lot of families obviously in Spain want you to speak English to their children, so their children learn English, but this particular family was okay with me speaking Spanish for the majority of the time. So that was a really important factor for me. So maybe an important question, if it's important for you, is which language do they want you to speak in? Another important question is the schedule. So asking them which hours will you be working, because in the first interview I had, or the first meet, I was just talking to the mom actually, but I think she said that I'd be working from 8 to 5 or something every day, or 8 to 6 or something, which felt a bit long for me. And I thought I could find maybe a better schedule with a different family. So the schedule is something you can ask about. Another thing is what tasks do they want you to do, or in what way do they want you to help out? For example, some families will want you to, the parents will go to work and you'll be the primary person taking care of the children. And that might include taking them to school or looking after the baby all day if the baby's at home, or making lunch, making dinner, cleaning. So you should be really clear on what tasks they want you to do. So with this particular family, I knew that the dad was going to be away for the summer and the mom just needed help because she wasn't working at the time. So my schedule was working in the afternoons, but I knew that I would always be, or the mom told me that I would always be with her, and we would just be doing like fun things around the city most of the time. So to me, that sounded really, really good. So that was an important question to ask. Another thing, I guess, this wasn't as important to me because it's kind of like a standard thing, and maybe this isn't like a great thing to ask right off the bat, but the pay is obviously an important part of a job, any job. So I think like maybe after the interview or after the like meet the family time, if you have like a good feeling about it and you're thinking about moving forward with it, then after that point, I think it's important to ask, or like at least come to a decision about what the pay is going to be or what's going to be included, because usually they include food. And for me, it was 80 euros per week. So it's obviously not like a great paying job, but I knew that I wanted to do it more for the experience. And yeah, so I think it's important to discuss that maybe after the fact. Maybe don't make it the first thing you say. Another logistical thing is like will you have your own bedroom? So I mean, I definitely would only agree to do it if I would have my own bedroom. But maybe you want to have your own bathroom also, if that's important to you. It depends what things are important, but you could ask what space will you have in the house? And maybe like, if it's a really, really tiny house with a bunch of kids, maybe that's not something that you want to have. So, yeah, I think that's an important question. Another important thing I think is to just like get a feel for if the family feels like they're really going to welcome you into their family. So for example, maybe it's good to ask like, what do they do on the weekends? And maybe the family will say like, oh, we usually like go out in the town and we like go to museums, or we take a trip and you can come whenever you want, like you're welcome to come or you don't have to. But personally, like it wouldn't make me feel good if they said like, oh, we have like our like own private plans, and they didn't say like you could come to whatever you want. So I think it's important to get like, I think part of it is like the logistics of these questions, and then part of it is just like the feeling you get from the answers. Like are you feeling like they're going to welcome you in to their space and to their lives, because that's ultimately what it is. Like you're walking into someone else's family and someone else's life. And for me, it was really important to know that that I was going to feel welcomed. Okay, I wrote down some questions. Let me see if I asked or if I talked about all of them. Yeah, I think I did. I guess another thing about the schedule, I think I mentioned this before, but like if you aren't comfortable with cooking or aren't comfortable with cleaning or whatever, like just to make sure you know what the expectations are before. Another thing, I think like in the beginning of the meeting process, maybe like just getting a feeling for how you think things will go, and then some of the specifics like your own bathroom or the pay or like the specific tasks. Maybe it's a good idea to ask that like the second time you talk, or like once you know that you think you'd have a good feeling about the family. So yeah, I think those are all the important things to ask. Obviously there might be different things for different people that have different things that are important for them, but those are the things. I think I asked most of those questions. And oh yeah, I'll also say that the first time we talked with the family that I did au pair for, I met the two kids, or the kid and the baby and the mom, and I met the mom's mom, the kid's grandma, during the time, and she kind of like walked me around the house and was just saying like, talking about the schedule a bit, talking about how like I would be welcome to all the weekend plans and stuff, and those kinds of things made me feel like more comfortable saying yes to that family. So that's all of the questions that I think are important, and I hope that was helpful.